My last video was not received very well. I had a lot of Kahara defenders in the comments who were more than happy to let me know about their opinions about how awesome this thieving, whoring guy really is. You know, how much he has a heart of gold. Which was funny, and I enjoyed going back and forth with those people in the comments. But now we're going to be moving on to my favorite character, playable character in Fear and Hunger. And that character is Darcy, the Knight. I think there's a tendency in media to downplay the role of just the straight up good guy who does good things. You know, people will say, well, it's not really complicated enough for me, that's not really complex enough. It's not compelling enough for me to just watch a hero do something good. And you could say Darcy has an obsessive quality to her, especially in her S ending, which I'll talk about. But I think Darcy is the clearest example of someone who is just a good person. She's loyal, she sticks with Lagarde to the end, beyond the end even. She is someone who has the dominating soul, which is something that's very important in Fear and Hunger. If you have a dominating soul, you're more likely to, become some kind of authoritarian personality, which we don't actually see in Darcy. We don't see her dominating other people, forcing them to her will. So I find that really impressive about her character. And of course, there's the fact that she is risking her life to go to the Fungeons to save Lagarde. And of course, there's so much bravery in that you don't get with a guy like Kahara. Kahara goes to the dungeons to make it rich. I said in the comments, and I mean it, Kahara is like the guy who invested in the 15th century equivalent of cryptocurrency. And he is just as dumb as those guys. In a way that Darcy is not. Darcy is not greedy. She doesn't do it for the money. From what we see in her intro, she has been by Lagarde's side since day one, and you can say, well, she just has the hots for him. She just thinks he's attractive. I don't think that doesn't really cover the extent of their relationship. I think she loves Lagarde for who he is and what he represents. And that's why she's willing to stick through him even when it looks like the whole movement is over, right? They invade Oldegard, they lose half their army, or maybe all of it, it's kind of unclear. And then Lagarde comes back and is imprisoned. And when your leader is in prison, that's pretty much game over for your movement, especially, when you're getting sent to the dungeons of Fear and Hunger. But she's still sticking by him. She's willing to go on a suicide mission to retrieve him because of how much she believes in what Lagarde represents, the future of humanity, the prophecy, the one that Lagarde doesn't put any stock in. So I think that's extremely noble of Darcy, something that's worthy of commendation. And then, of course, we get to the S ending with Darcy. And in this ending, she finds Lagarde dead, because if you're playing on the hardest difficulty, Lagarde will always be dead in the cell, no matter how fast you get to him. And instead of giving up there, right, okay, so he goes to Oldegard, loses half his army, goes to the Dungeons of Fear and Hunger, she finds him and he's dead. Does she give up? No. Hell no, she doesn't give up. She goes down to Mahabur, the very depths of the dungeon, the bottom, with the absolute worst monsters. And she retrieves ancient blood magic to revive this guy with her own blood. Isn't that just like badass? Isn't that really cool? How can you look at that and say, oh man, that's messed up, man. That's messed up. No, that's awesome. That's dedication. That's willpower. That's the Faustian spirit in a character. And yeah, the blood clone is a little messed up. He's a little bit freaky. Everything's not right with him. It's supposed to be a horrifying moment, and you can tell by the artwork, right? It's not like this is a happy ending. What I'm more interested in is talking about what that speaks to about Darcy's character. How far she's willing to go. It's not just that she's a knight. It's not just that she's noble in a way that Kahara is not. It's not just that she's strong, that she can defeat every monster in the Fungeons. It's not just that she's intelligent. You have to solve a lot of puzzles to get to Mahabur. She's courageous. And I think Darcy embodies the purest form of what it means to be a good person. Someone who really believes in a cause and is willing to lay their life down for that cause. And that's something that I think Fear and Hunger would be amiss, or I should say remiss. They would be remiss not to include. That kind of character is needed in a world that's so dark, so unforgiving, so brutal. You know, where you can get assaulted and killed in various brutal ways. You need someone who's able to overcome those obstacles. You need someone who is a person that you can look up to. And Darcy is that person in a way that Enki, Ragnvaldr, and Kahara are not. Ragnvaldr has some of those qualities. He's courageous, he's strong, he's willing to go to the dungeons to revenge his family, right? But we don't really get any evidence that he's like deep down a good person. I think Ragnvaldr embodies more of like the spirit of nature in Fear and Hunger, and that's kind of suggested in his own S ending. But I think Ragnvaldr is more representative of like the natural state of what a human really is, and we'll get into that. I like Ragnvaldr, he's a good character, but he's not an explicitly good person in the way that Darcy is. And it's for those reasons that I think Darcy is someone that is extremely powerful, a really good character. Not as good as Le'Garde, obviously, because come on, Le'Garde's my goat. But Darcy's up there, and I really respect her. I guess the only thing really left to say is to talk about the S ending itself. So in Fear and Hunger 2, if you get down to the White Bunker and you are good enough to defeat Le'Garde and you have enough, stuff stocked up, it's a difficult game. If you have enough stuff stocked up to defeat Le'Garde, he kind of turns into like a bloodied copy of himself. Well, no, that's not right. I'm sorry. Let me rewind here. When you cast a certain spell on him, I think it's either poison or rot, he turns into like a bloodied version of himself. Which some people have taken to mean that Darcy's S ending is actually canon, that Le'Garde did die in the Fungeons. To me, I don't buy into that, even though it's a commonly accepted theory. And the reason I don't buy into it is because a little, like, a blood copy of himself would not be powerful enough to perform the supernatural acts that he does. Like with the Asterisk. And with healing himself, he's learned magic by the time of the second game. So I think it's... What I think is canon is that Le'Garde did sit on the Yellow Throne, and Darcy was the one who assisted him to that point. I don't think it's plausible that his blood copy is the canon ending, but it does represent a very interesting, an interesting S ending, like they all are, that shows who Darcy really is. And I think there's nothing negative you can say about the type of person she is. She's dedicated, loyal. She's wife material, really. Okay, if you're a guy out there, I'm just saying, you need to find your own Darcy. You need to find a girl who's willing to slit her wrists open to make a blood clone of yourself. If she ain't like that, we ain't going. Am I right? Back me up here. Who else thirsting for Darcy? Okay. That's enough of that bit. But seriously, I really appreciate Darcy. Definitely the best character in the first game. I might do a series on the characters in the second game. I didn't like some of them. Some of them are very forgettable, but there are a cast of really strong characters as well. It's a party of 12. It's going to be hard to make each one of them stand out in some way. But I might make a video on the most important ones. We'll see. Stay tuned for that. Screw Osa. Hate that guy. Total cuck. Total cuck loser. Hate that guy. But, in any case, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like.